Well, howdy, partners. Welcome back to the Nuclear Dad Blogcast. I am your host and tour guide, E.C. McKeever. This is Season 2, Episode 9, and we are talking about selfishness, being selfish, prioritizing you, putting you first, taking care of you first. When is it good? When is it bad? Can too much selfishness be a bad thing? I think so. Can too little selfishness be a bad thing? I think so. I think we have this misconception over the years that someone who is selfish is bad. They are self-centered. And I believe that is true in certain cases. But as we know, you can't pour from an empty glass. So if you're someone who prioritizes other people's needs before your own, how's that going to work? How are you going to be mentally capable of doing what needs to be done in life when you're not in touch with who you are mentally because you're not your priority? I mean, we see it all the time. Classic cases with mothers. I don't know how old you guys are who are listening, but I used to watch a show back in the day. It's called Jenny Jones. It was a talk show. And they used to have makeover shows. Husbands would come on and talk about their wives who just didn't take care of themselves. And when they fell in love and they got married in the early years of their courtship and their marriage life, they were pretty, hot and tempting, fat as you would call it, pretty hot and tempting. And now, throughout the course of their marriage, they've let themselves go. It could be weight gain. It could just be not taking care of themselves aesthetically, walking out of the house wearing anything, just looking like they rolled out of bed. And a lot of these women would say, well, I take care of the kids all day. I take care of the house all day. I take care of my husband. So what's the point of me trying to look good? Because that's time I don't have to spend in the mirror, making sure the hair is done and the makeup is done and the outfit is up to standard. And that's the example I'm setting or the example I'm stating as far as prioritizing everyone else but you. Now, I'm not saying these mothers were wrong for putting their children and their husband and their family and their home first. They're not wrong for that. But a little bit of selfishness could have saved them that trip to that show. And some of it could have been staged because 90s talk shows were always a little hokey, not always believable, and a lot of times sensationalized. So who knows if they didn't give those women these baggy t-shirts with the spaghetti stains on it and the 2 holes by the collar. It's quite possible. But what I'm saying to you, gentlemen, is we often have these moments where we put everybody's needs before our own. And it stops today. It stops with this show. Now, yes, you can take care of your family. Go out here and earn a living. But in doing so, make sure you take a little bit of time to say no to everything and everyone that does not serve your mental health and well-being, because you cannot pour from an empty glass. So, intro monologue done. Now you know what to do at this point. Sit back, relax, put your feet up, sit somewhere comfortable, get a cool drink, get something to snack on, strap in your seatbelt because we are going for a ride, sir. All right, and we are right back into it. Now we are about to take off, so get yourself comfortable. I said that, didn't I? Well, I hope you are comfortable at this point because here we go. Now, I want you to think about the power of the word no. I am someone who says no often because I've learned over the years that when you're a yes man, a yes person, when you say yes to everything, you tend to get taken advantage of. Everybody knows that they can come to you for anything and you won't say no because you're just so kind-hearted. But it may be deeper than that. You could just have a fear of disappointing people. So you inconvenience yourself by saying yes to everything. And when you say no, you're the bad guy. Say hello to the bad guy. But when you say no often, people get used to it and they say things like, you never say yes. At least that's what my wife tells me. You never say yes to anything, which is not true. But when people are used to you saying no more than they are used to you saying yes, when you do say yes, they are way more appreciative of the yeses. The no becomes normal. It becomes standardized. So they know that they can't come to you for petty things, for any and everything. Now, if it's important, they know that you will say yes and they will appreciate it. And that's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about the power of saying no. Now, I'm going to get into an article that's actually titled The Power of No. Why saying no is important. Everybody can benefit from understanding why saying no is important to do in life. Humans are inclined to want to say yes in situations, whether it's to not let someone down or not let themselves down. It can be extremely hard to say no, but doing so more often provides significant benefits to your overall mental health, such as setting boundaries and other behavioral standards. Here are some ways that you can learn to say no by understanding just how important it is. Now, perhaps the best way to explore why saying no is important is to analyze the reasons why we often say yes. People do it to avoid confrontation. They do it to please others, fear of missing out, and compulsivity. Now, the power of saying no really comes down to the effects it has on our brain. When we say no more often, we shift the way our brain thinks and reacts to situations, allowing us more ability to make decisions for ourselves. It has a tremendous effect on our mental health, as it allows us to value ourselves more. It also helps us prioritize ourselves and even leads us to new opportunities that wouldn't have been there if we say yes. It allows us to set boundaries. Since boundaries and mental health treatment are ever so critical, saying no allows us to develop the necessary skills and tips for setting boundaries ahead of time. Even if we begin to implement these thought processes into our mindsets, we will still find ourselves in numerous situations where saying yes is a better decision. So how do we know exactly when to say no? How do we know if it feels right or wrong? When we learn to say no, we must ask ourselves certain questions about the situation. Will saying yes prevent me from focusing on something that's more important? Will saying yes make me even more tired or burnt out? These questions give us the framework for when it's finally time to say no. Other tips that are recommended to help you learn to say no include rehearsal. Ask yourself these questions and rehearse the way you wish to convey your point. Be honest. There is never a need to lie about why you are saying no. Offer alternatives. Sometimes providing another way to go about something can help prevent you from saying yes. Do not rush. You don't need to say no to everything, but give yourself some time to think through the consequences of committing, and then properly give a response. Now, I feel like that was enough, right? That kind of put the period at the end of the sentence that I started with. Saying no is important. It's more important than we could ever imagine. And part of that is taking care of yourself, putting you first. And like I said, being selfish, healthy selfishness. And sometimes when you are in a position to say yes more than no, it will affect your mental and your physical health. And by saying no, you get time to protect your mental space. You know, You can say no to going to an event that you probably don't want to be at, and everyone else is going to be there. And it gives you time to recharge yourself. It helps you avoid guilt, and you can notice the positive outcomes over time if you start to say no more than yes, or say no when appropriate and not say yes to everything. I think that's a better statement. I think I stated it before in this season, is when I was in the entertainment industry, people would get more no's than yeses. And even if they got a yes, they would get a disclaimer. I may not show up to this event. I'm a flake. So take in mind, by inviting me out to places, I may show up, I may not show up. But don't be upset if you get a text or a call the day of, or an hour before the event, with me saying, I'm just not feeling it today. I think I'm gonna switch that yes to no, and I'll see you when I see you. Because we have to prioritize us. We have to take care of ourselves. And I got a couple of quotes that will inspire you to take care of yourself. Now, where are the quotes? Where are the quotes? As important as it is to have a plan for doing work, it is perhaps more important to have a plan for rest, relaxation, self-care, and sleep. Self-care has become a new priority. The revelation that it's perfectly permissible to listen to your body and do what it needs. Your subconscious mind is paying attention to how you treat yourself. If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. Take rest. A field that has rested gives a bountiful crop. You aren't doing nothing when you choose to put your well-being first. In fact, this is the key to have everything. Taking care of myself doesn't mean me first, it means me too. Self-care is never a selfish act. It is simply good stewardship of the only gift I have, the gift that I was put on earth to offer others. Anytime we can listen to true self and give the care it requires, we do it not only for ourselves, but for the many others whose lives we touch. Caring for myself is not self-indulgent. It is self-preservation. And that is an act of political welfare. Take time off. The world will not fall apart without you. When you can't find your purpose in a day, make it to look after yourself. Have patience with all things, but first, with yourself. Do something nice for yourself today. Find some quiet, sit in stillness, breathe, put your problems on pause. You deserve a break. Always make decisions that prioritize your inner peace. Now, this touches on some of the subjects that we have covered so far in the season, and they are all a part of the same package, which is mental health. But right now we are talking about putting yourself first and being selfishly selfish, or selflessly selfish. I don't know. I just confused myself. But I think you understand where I'm going. So think about that for a minute. Take a second, pause this, think about the times that you say yes when you should have said no, the times that you said no when you should have said yes, and how you can be more selfish in your daily approach to life and how you think it will benefit you. All right, guys, now, contrary to popular belief, putting yourself first is the opposite of selfish. Because, the people that you love the most, they love you too. And they want you to be the best you that you can be. But it's hard to do that when you're not in a good space, right? When you're burnt out, you can't enjoy those good moments. And it shows. It shows when something is not right with you. You may not be able to say exactly what it is, but being overworked, being stressed, being exhausted, having anxiety, all of these things are counterproductive to enjoying the relationships with the people you love and enjoying the relationship you have with yourself. So at that point, resting is not an option, it's a requirement. And when you push yourself past your personal thresholds, you can become physically sick. So you're going to have to take time off anyway. You have to take a break anyway when you get to that point. And then that negative energy is going to transfer to the people you love. Because as I stated before, we are beings of energy. And those things transfer. Those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions, they can bounce from person to person. Now, getting to saying no, when I'm recording this podcast, I'm in my danger room. And my wife has to be reminded every so often, when I'm in here, treat it like work. You can't call me for random things. Now, if it's an emergency, yes, everything goes on hold. I will stop everything. I'll shut down my PC and I'll come do what I need to do. But there are times where I say no more often than yes, because I need to set that boundary and prioritize. When I'm here, when I'm doing this work, I'm not as easily accessible as if I were sitting on the couch with my feet up, scrolling through my emails. It's a different set of circumstances. In between segments, I got a phone call. Can you go get me a ginger ale? What? Are you serious right now? That's all I said. She was like, oh, never mind. Because she knows. And this is not to discount what's going on, but my wife thinks that ginger ale is a cure-all for anything nausea related. I love her to death, right? I'm not talking bad about her. These are just some facts. You can see an example in my life and when I say no and when I know when to say no. So she's upset about something that could have been avoided. I'm not going to get into the what, but she's upset about something that could have been avoided. It's one of those things where I don't want to say I told you so, but hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. And I did this for a reason. And then she goes against my, not advice, but the decisions that I've made and decides to do something anyway. And it didn't work out in her favor. Now she's upset, and understandably so. And her stomach's bothering her. I get it. But I'm also currently on a detox, taking these pills that make you go to the bathroom crazy. Not all the time, but this is one of those days where I do not plan on leaving the house. I need to be close to that restroom. And I'm in my danger room. I'm recording the podcast. So her calling me saying, can you go? And I know she's going to call me back in about 15 minutes. Can you go get? No, I am not going to get you a ginger ale. And I don't want to get into why I'm not going to. But part of it is you need to live with your decisions. Love you, but today is about putting me first. Speaking of putting me first, here's 5 tips to help you put yourself first and why it is so important. The importance of taking care of yourself. At first glance, it may sound selfish to prioritize yourself first, but if you can't make yourself happy, how in the world are you supposed to make others feel happy? The research backs this point up, as it is found that when you prioritize your needs and show kindness to yourself, you experience greater levels of happiness. That's just what I'm doing. Why people pleasing doesn't set you up for success. We all like to be liked. It feels good when others enjoy and appreciate you. But if being liked by others becomes the focus of your life, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. A study in the year 2000 found that focusing on pleasing others leads to depression and less satisfaction with your interpersonal relationships. Now, 5 ways to put yourself first. Remind yourself that you will never be able to make everyone happy. Say no more often. What are we talking about? Set yourself up for healthy boundaries in your relationships. Slow down and assess how you are feeling. Sometimes you can't put your needs first because you're so busy rushing around trying to please everyone else that you don't even realize what it is that you're feeling. And in some cases, this rushing around keeps yourself busy. It's a way to distract yourself from your real feelings and a deeper issue. Sometimes rushing and putting other people first is a way of escapism. Because if you said no, you have to deal with your problems. And for some people, that can be too overwhelming. And then ask for help is the last tip. Sometimes I treat help like it's a bad four-letter word, and that's my downfall too often in life. These aren't my words. These are the words of the person writing the article. But putting yourself first can often look like asking for help. There was a time when I was working on a big project for work. I was determined to get this project done without any assistance because I didn't want to bother any of my coworkers. The reality was this project was way too big for just one person. And by trying to do it all on my own, I was sacrificing sleep and time with my husband for weeks on end. Oh, it's a lady. Needless to say, I was grumpy Ashley at work. After weeks of trying to front all of the work alone, and after a firm talking to from my husband, I finally asked my coworkers for help. It turned out it was no big deal to them, and the project was finished in half the time I thought it would have taken when they helped. If you can't meet your own needs, it's time to ask for help. Turns out it's not a bad four-letter word at all. Now, why you need to put yourself first and how to do it. And I'm pretty sure it's just a regurgitation. Establish priorities. How the whole life challenge can help you commit to yourself. Oh, this is a website. They have a challenge. Get out of your own way. Make a list of your priorities. Keep it short. Ask for help from your family and community. Keep a balance between treating yourself and giving to others. Remember, putting yourself first sometimes involves doing things that are difficult but benefit you in the long run. And then 10 small ways to put yourself first every day. Set an alarm. Meditate. Prioritize your fitness. Spend 15 minutes a day doing exactly what you want. Eat your 5 a day. Get those vegetables and fruit in. Practice affirmations. Use the good china. We all have things in our life we save for a rainy day or special occasion, but why not treat every day like it's special? We're telling you to use the good china, wear your nice underwear, or do any small thing that just makes you feel good. Smile at yourself in the mirror. Did you know smiling is contagious? When you see someone smile, it triggers happy chemicals in your brain, and the best part is, you don't have to wait for someone to smile at you because smiling at yourself works. Even if you're not feeling happy, your mind sees a smile and thinks it is. A simple yet very effective practice that takes only a second. Be grateful. Practice gratitude. Choose to do something every day that helps your future. Putting yourself first can be big or small, and you can support yourself and the big goals by doing tiny things every day that helps you reach your future goals. You may not want to eat healthier, so today you could spend 5 minutes cutting up vegetables for salads so they're easily on hand. Or you can have a goal to run a marathon, but start today by running a kilometer. Small actions do add up. I think that was a nice little golden nugget right there. Now, quick pause. Back in 2. And we're back. Now, Merriam-Webster's defines selfishness as the quality or state of being selfish, a concern for one's own welfare or advantage at the expense of or in disregard of others. Now, selfish is defined as concerned excessively or exclusively with oneself, seeking or concentrating on one's own advantage, pleasure, or well-being without regard for others, arising from concern with one's own welfare or advantage in disregard to others. Blah, 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 right? But the good part of selfishness is, let's see, I have another article. Healthy selfishness and pathological altruism. measuring two paradoxical forms of selflessness. Selfishness is often regarded as an undesirable or even immoral characteristic, whereas altruism is typically considered universally desirable and virtuous. However, human history, as well as the works of humanistic and psychodynamic psychologists, point to a more complex picture. Not all selfishness is necessarily bad, and not all altruism is necessarily good. Based on these writings, we introduce new scales for the assessment of individual differences in two paradoxical forms of selfishness that have located measurements in the field: healthy selfishness and pathological altruism. In two studies, we constructed and validated that healthy selfishness and pathological altruism scales. The scales show good internal consistency and a clear two-dimensional structure across both studies. Healthy selfishness was related to higher levels of psychological well-being and adaptive psychological functioning, as well as a genuine pro-social orientation. Pathological altruism was associated with maladaptive psychological outcomes, vulnerable narcissism, and selfish motives for helping others. These results underpin the paradoxical nature of both constructs. We discussed the implications for future research, including implications. That was actually pretty good. There's more that I can go into, but this is frontiersn.org. Psychology. So basically they're saying what I said. Selfishness may not always be bad, may not always be good. I could get into the psychobabble, but I won't, because I think you understand where I'm going and I don't want to lose you. This is going to be a shorter episode. Fun fact, I have taken some time off of work to, 1, rest, recharge, recalibrate, 2, get some things done. Not necessarily around the house, that'll come, but knock out some of these shows. Finish working on some material as far as literature or articles and blog posts, and making tweaks on the website and doing some things for my other businesses, which I'm not going to mention right now because I don't want to. It has nothing to do with what we're doing right now, except in the sense that I help people take care of themselves. I'm a massage therapist, but I also help people in the financial realm. So I'll save that for another time. Next article, the importance of selfishness. We are highly attuned to the notion that being selfish is one of the worst character traits that we might possess, a way of behaving associated with greed, entitlement, and cruelty. And yet, for some reason, we all fail to have the lives we should. It springs from an excess of the very opposite trait, from an overweening modesty and over hasty deference to the wishes of others, a dangerous and counterproductive lack of selfishness. So they're saying not saying no is a bad thing. I'm not going to read all of everything. Different conception. Yeah, this is all a regurgitation. I think we can wrap this up. Yeah, I think we can wrap this up. Let's see. Sometimes self-care is selfish, and that's okay. Redefining what it means. When it comes to mind, it often sparks negative connotations. Yes. Even though it's defined as being concerned with only your own personal pleasure and profit, as well as lacking consideration for others, we still think of selfishness as the times when we're simply putting ourselves first. Yes, we do. So repeat after me. I won't beat myself up for being selfish. I won't beat myself up for being selfish. Sometimes it isn't a bad thing. There are times when being selfish is the right thing to do for your health and well-being. These are also times when taking care of yourself is necessary. Here are some of those times when you need help, when you need to rest, when you just need alone time, when it's time to end a relationship, job, or living situation. Give is being significantly outweighed by take. The scales are off. It's not a balance. You're giving more than you receive. And the best person to receive from is you. Receive a little love, compassion, and prioritization from you to you. And you can do it to avoid burnout after work or in your personal life. Again, I'm taking time off to rest, recalibrate, and recharge. Now, don't neglect yourself and your health to avoid being selfish. Selfishness does not have to be a bad thing. It can be good to be a little selfish to take care of your emotional, mental, and physical well-being. Many people who focus entirely on give, they end up overwhelmed, fatigued, and stressed. And chronic stress has been linked to a number of health risks, including conditions like diabetes, cancer, and mental illness. You can reduce your stress by being a little selfish now and then and practicing some good old self-care. I think that was the first episode of the season. I believe it was the self-care show. I believe if it's not the first, it's in like the first 2 or 3, for sure. And then they talk about different things you can do for self-care, which we've already covered. Psychology Today says good, neutral, and bad selfishness. Despite the negative connotation of selfishness is not always bad. We know this, psycho nerds. Yeah, it's a regurgitation. I'm not going to read it. Let's see this little article about 4 reasons why being selfish is good for you. If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others. Being selfish is critical. Again, you can't pour from an empty glass. And in being selfish, you'll be healthier. You'll have an advantage when it comes to leadership roles. You'll have better relationships. And you'll overall be happier in life. So, something to think about, guys. And we achieved the goal of keeping this show at the 30-minute mark. It's going to be a little over 30 minutes, but definitely under 40. Definitely something that you can digest while you're making and eating a sandwich. In between the little commercial breaks when you're watching the game, pop this on. You don't need to watch the beer commercials, because when you're watching the game, that's a little time for yourself anyway, right? Something to think about. Now, before we go, I want you guys to remember a few things. I want you to remember your mission. I want you to remember why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it for. And sometimes you're doing it for you. I want you to remember to stay focused, stay vigilant, stay diligent, stay dangerous, and most importantly, stay cool.